Alex?
What's up, Reggie Wright Jr.? How you doing?
Good, brother. How you been?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Last week on Streets and Scholars, we had spoke about FG and I spoke about this album, Too Gangsta for Radio, and I know you had a big part of that, so I wanted to chop it up with you for a few minutes about like take me back to that time when this album came out. I believe September of 2000 is the release date.
Yeah, I remember that album. Yeah. I heard y'all little episode about that as well. Had some issues with it.
Oh, okay. Well, let's start off with the issues.
Okay. Well, first of all, FG misspoke, I guess. He said Key Rock was real instrumental in putting that album together. Key Rock was around. He was one of the homies, but he didn't have that type of juice around the company at the time.
Well,
But
how
I
did
don't
Key
know.
Rock from '60s get involved in that project in the first place?
Well, he was around. He was hanging around. Key Rock was hanging around, and you know, he got me and him got real close, and he developed a relationship with Suge. He came around through Daz, to be honest, and he was hanging out with Daz, and Key Rock was a real good dude, and he was, you know, we was creating alliances, and he had a good relationship with the Crips, and the '60s, and he just kept being around and being persistent, and he got up under the wing, and I had hired him over there to be working with the street team and promotion. So
Okay.
yeah, that's what was up with Peter Rock. That's how he came around.
So what was the tension like with guys like Key Rock? Because the El Ray incident where Jamerson from '60s that happened in '96, '95.
Uh, 90, it was before Tupac came, so that would have been like 95. Yeah.
So tension must have been a little bit high with guys like Key Rock because of that incident. How did you kind of work all that out?
Well, like I said, over time, that issue went away, and you know, we never really felt it because of Corrupt and Daz did. I remember them being real scared and spooked, but we didn't have no issues, to be honest.
All right, so let's talk about this album. This is while you're the CEO of Death Row, right? At this point.
I ain't never been no CEO.
What
I
would you?
mean, Suge was always the CEO. I didn't really have a title. I didn't give myself a title,
But you weren't the
but I was
security
in
guard
charge of
no
everything.
more at this point.
I wasn't a security guard,
Yeah.
but I was running stuff. Everybody knew I was running stuff. I was the decision maker all over, but I had a lot of different people to pull from Daz, from Big C Style, the realist. I was Hutch 187. Matter of fact, he was involved in the project because Suge had me to reach out to him to help with some production on the production side. So yeah, it was a bunch of people that was around.
Okay. Was this sort of like the first project under your tutelage?
No,
No.
hell no, no, no.
No, because
I had put the until
you were in
I
position
put
by
two.
'97, right?
Yeah, uh, yeah. I was in like June, July of '97. So now I had put together the Tupac Until the End of Time album. Helped them with the Still I Rise album. Uh, the Tupac Greatest Hits album. Uh, Chronic 2000. No. Oh, hell no. I ain't gonna take credit for Michelet and the Lady of Rage album. They did that all on their own.
Where do you rank the Two Gangster for Radio compilation album that you guys did? Because it has a lot of heavy hitters on it.
We had a lot of people that we were trying to experiment to blow up to see who blew up from that. Um, but as far as me being in charge of with the DVD concept, and then that was really a soundtrack to the DVD that we did, Two Gangster for TV, and then we did the Two Gangster for radio. So of course that was one of my pet projects. Other than that, and Chronic 2000, because those were the two that I was completely in charge of. Um, Dad's album came out under my watch, but I approved videos and stuff like that. But he mainly did the production side. But those two albums were the two that I was totally responsible for and running things by Suge and get permission from him to do. Um, so of course those two albums gonna always be dear to my heart. Then of course I also put together the Dog Pound 2002 album and the the Snoop Dogg Dead Man Walking album. But those, so those was 4 albums. But I'm gonna always take credit for Until the End of Time and the Tupac Greatest Hits album because I know those albums wouldn't happen without my influence because Suge was a very, very stubborn man during those days, especially with Interscope and Maru.
Okay, now you mentioned Daz. He's the producer on one of these songs. One of the questions I have about this compilation is, although it's West Coast influence, you have Ja Rule on this album.
Yeah,
The Locks are on this album. What was
yeah.
what was the thinking back then about
Well,
that?
that's when the Rough Riders was coming into town when we going to the locks. And me and this dude named Ja, it was two brothers that kind of ran Rough Riders, D and Ja. They used to come to California and LA, and we used to look out for them. If you don't know what I mean by that, because of the relationship that the Rough Riders and we had with DMX and all of them at the time. And then, of course, when we went to New Jersey and went out there later on, when Suge got out, they looked out for us when we came out there, were giving us things to put in our pockets. So, yeah, so we had a working relationship with Rough Rider. They were hot at the time, and so that's why we messed with them. Uh, and then Ja Rule, and then he was hanging and was cool with them. Um, the Irv Gotti situation because they were always trying to get stuff cleared, and we was using pop songs or beats and stuff like that, and we developed a relationship like that. I even think Tretch was on a couple of the songs. I'm not for sure which one it was. Tretch and Scarface, those were two. They used to always look out whenever I called and be like, "Shit, just send those over to ADAT, and we get our vocals on it and get it back." And so I don't know if it's the Chronic 2000 album or the Two Gangsta Radio with Tretch and Scarface got on a couple of songs for me.
Now
But yeah,
looking back at this album, that's 22 years ago. How do you feel about the heavy dissing of Dre and a couple other dudes? There's a few tracks here where it's all about dissing and going in on people.
yeah, I'm not one to regret what things that we do. I just like to speak on the truth. What I mean by that is when I talk about something, that's how we was feeling at the time. Suge, was his company. He was hating Dre. He was hating Snoop. He was doing that. Now things that may have changed, things may have been wrong, or we should have been more adults than anything. But that's how we felt at the time. So that's was the songs that how artists were able to get me and get Suge to approve being on the album by doing songs, like It's Easy to Be a Soldier When It Ain't No War, with my boy Swoop G and Lil C Style and the Realers. They knew they do stuff like that. The Realers knew. He say something called F Dre and all of that, or Hollywood, and which was on Chronic 2000. Talking about all the gay people and all of that stuff, telling about people from Hollywood that that's how Suge was feeling sitting in that cell, um, and that's how they were able to get position these on the albums.
Now you got
So yeah, that's what.
there's two Tupac tracks on this song, but they're obviously
Yeah,
from '96.
correct.
How many songs of Tupac did you have to choose from that he already recorded that had never been released? Thanks for watching this video clip of Streets and Scholars podcast with Alex Alonso and FG. If you want to listen to the entire episode, go to your favorite podcast platform and type in Streets and Scholars. But we're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. And thanks for listening to another episode of Streets and Scholars.